So is your attorney screwing up your injury claim, and how would you know it if they are? My name is Hunter Hoestenbach. I'm a partner at Hoestenbach Law Group. We're injury attorneys, and we're bringing you this series because if you've been injured by someone else's fault or someone else's negligence, chances are you probably know enough to know you should at least call an attorney and ask them some questions. But what questions do you ask, and how do you evaluate the answers of the attorney once you ask those questions? You know, there's lots of ways your attorney can screw up your claim. The biggest one, and the one I'll talk about today, is that they don't help manage your medical treatment. If someone else causes my injury, right, someone else's negligence causes my injury, am I going to sit around and try to be a hero? Like, for whose sake am I doing that? I'm going to end up permanently hobbled, or I'm going to end up with, permanent stiffness or permanent pain for the rest of my life, just, as a favor to who? I mean, I'm not even going to be doing it really as a favor to the other person because they're supposed to have insurance. Am I doing it for the benefit of their insurance company? So I'm not saying, it's proper to go out and just do treatment that makes no sense. That's not the case, but nobody should feel guilty when they've been injured by someone else's negligence and there's an insurance company on the other side, and there almost always is. Nobody should feel guilty about going and being evaluated. There's nothing unethical or nothing wrong about doing those things. You absolutely should. There is a point where it would be overboard. I mean, if you absolutely didn't need something, you absolutely weren't hurting, and you weren't having any stiffness or pain, you don't need to be treating. Now, that leads to the next question. Well, then what is your attorney's proper role in that process? Shouldn't this all be left up to the doctors? Shouldn't you just let them decide everything? Well, yeah, of course. I mean, the doctors are the experts. They're the ones who know what to do. They're the ones who can help you get better. But you have to remember that, what a doctor's modalities are and what a doctor thinks is reasonable is not necessarily what an insurance company thinks is reasonable. So you say to yourself, and you should, well, why should insurance companies, what they think matters? Well, because they're the ones who are paying you. I mean, that's ultimately who you're trying to settle with. And they're also going to go in and make an argument in front of a jury about why certain things that maybe your doctor did, indicate to them and should indicate to you too, the juror, that, this person isn't really hurt. And, they can confuse the issues quite a bit. They're going to bring in experts who are going to testify to this. So, all of a sudden they're going to come in and probably try to vilify your doctors, say that they, did a bad job. It was a poor standard of care. It was over treatment. They were overzealous, or maybe, they're in the back pocket of the attorney. And so, yeah, they're going to try to throw as much dirt on you as they can. That's what they do. So, yeah, you have to be aware that it's not just your doctor who's treating you and what their, opinion that matters, but it's also the insurance company's opinion that matters. And so that's where your attorney comes in. Your attorney should be intimately involved in the whole process of you going through medical treatment. And I've discussed this in other videos, but I'll just give some very quick examples. So you get involved with, say, in a car accident, it's a fender bender. You're not feeling it at the scene because the endorphins are rushing through your body. And so you're kind of in that fight or flight mode. You don't feel anything at that point. So you wave off any need for an ambulance, and you wake up the next day and you feel like you've been hit by a ton of bricks. All right. So now you go to urgent care. Urgent care says, they do what the urgent care always does. They do a couple x-rays. They tell you to take NSAIDs. Maybe they give you a shot of Toradol. And then they tell you, hey, if your symptoms worsen or don't get better in the next 2 to 4 weeks, come back to see us, or, go see your regular doctor. So during that 2 to 4 week period, you're sitting around following doctor's orders, but from an insurance company's perspective, you're doing nothing. And if you're doing nothing, you must not be hurt and they're going to tell a jury that. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you were hurt, would you sit around doing nothing about it? I think we all know that when we're hurt, we go to the doctor. And why is this person not going to the doctor? Obviously, they're not hurt. Their attorney's just telling them what to do. They're just in here making a trumped up claim for damages, and it's all a bunch of BS. And award them were they at fault for the accident? No, but, I think it's pretty sick display of character to come in here and ask for money when they really weren't hurt. That's essentially how it's going to go down. So your attorney needs to be involved in the process and make sure that not only is you're following your doctor's orders, but make sure that, you're also that your timeline of treatment fits within the optics of what an insurance company wants to see. I mean, if your attorney is not involved in your medical process and helping you navigate, okay, here's who you should see, here's why you should see them, here's their schedule that you should see them on, here's what you need to tell your doctor, here's what your doctor should be telling you, blah, 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 blah. If your attorney is not intimately involved in that process, your attorney is screwing up your injury claim. Absolutely. Your attorney is taking your injury claim and devaluing it by half, maybe more. I mean, obviously, if your attorney is not involved and they're not talking to you, you never hear from them, and you're just treating away and you're going to your own doctors and your attorney isn't calling you and asking you about it, obviously your attorney is screwing up your claim. But, is that at that point, is it too late? Is it unsalvageable? Maybe, but, your attorney should be on the phone with you pretty often the first few weeks right after your accident, finding out who you're going to see and what your treatment schedule is. So if you're not hearing from your attorney, you're only hearing from a case manager, that's a red flag. How else would you figure it out? Well, I mean, look, if a lot of law firms are going to be victims of their own success. So if they're really, really big and they have tons and tons of clients, unless they have a very good system in place where they're making sure that every single one of their clients follows some sort of schedule, the bigger, more successful your firm is, the less likely they are going to be looking at your individual case, unless your case is worth probably $1 million plus. A lot of times, if you're with a really, really big firm, that can hurt your claim. If you call your attorney for the first time and you're interviewing attorneys trying to figure out who's going to represent you, and you're asking them, well, who am I going to talk to on a day-to-day basis? And they tell you a case manager, I'd probably just call another law firm. If they say, hey, me, the attorney, I'm going to be the one talking to you on a daily basis, I'm going to be the one who's keeping in touch with you, that's a good one to stick with. I mean, me personally, for my clients, I give them, pretty much they all have my direct number. They can text me, they can call me, and I'm going to pick up the phone and answer the phone. Any one of them will tell you that's true. So that's how I like to do it. That's how I want my attorneys doing it who are handling clients' claims. I don't want some case manager being the one who's handling my clients' claims for all the reasons that I've discussed in this and other videos. That's how you figure out if your attorney is screwing up your PI claim or not. Because number one, you're not hearing from them, and number two, from the outset, they've probably assigned a case manager, and that's a red flag. Do get all the treatment that you need. Don't be bashful about it. Go get treated. I mean, this is not the time to second guess whether you should get treatment or not. Do it. And, get better, get well. That's your job as a client, is to get better. It's your attorney's job to just see to it that your claim is protected, and those are the proper roles. You shouldn't be managing your medical care. Your doctors and your attorneys should. You should just be getting better. And I hope that's the case for you. So I hope that this series helps. I hope this particular video has helped. I wish you the very best, and thanks for tuning in. Bye-bye.